Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu salam wa Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's The 99 Beautiful Names of God, Al-Maqsad Al-Asna fi Sharhi Asma'illah Al-Husna, translated by David Borel and Nazi Bahar. We are in mid-page 15, and at the very end of the last session, we spoke about the meaning of the term father when it is related to a son. It is the essence of father in as much as it is related to a son. Attributes, we continue, are divided into relational and not relational, إضافية وغير إضافية. And the thing qualified by all of them is the essence. At that, though the Arabic version talk about the plural, al-dhawat, when one says creator, it is an attribute, and every attribute is an affirmation. But no affirmation is contained in this word except creation, in creator. Yet creation is other than creator. And no true description of a creator can be derived from creation. For that reason, it is said that it, meaning creator, refers to what is other than the thing named, meaning vis-a-vis creation. So we believe that the saying, the name makes one understanding something other than the thing named, is a contradiction, as though one were to say the sign makes known something other than the thing signified. The signpost, more of a guide, more of a guidance. The proof, but also sign and signified are okay. The sign makes known something other than the thing signified, as though one were to say. But since the thing named is equivalent to the meaning of the name, how can the meaning be other than the thing named, or the thing named other than the meaning? As for saying that the creator cannot be described from creation, nor the writer from his writing, that is not so. The proof that can be so described as the fact that sometimes it is described by it and at other times denied of it. Relation is an attribute that can be denied or affirmed of the thing related, as with whiteness, which is not something related. So whoever knows Zaid and Bakr, and also knows that Zaid is Bakr's father, definitely knows something. And this thing which he knows is either an attribute or a subject of attribution. It is not the essence of the subject, but rather an attribute. But an attribute does not subsist in itself, but is rather a quality of Zaid. Relations are like attributes to the things related, except that their meanings can only be conceived by comparing two things. But that does not deprive them of the status of attributes. I hope it is clear because the additional, uh, any additional relational description, of course, it's not in the essence of the described. Now, if one were to say that God, great and glorious, is not described by his being creator, that would be unbelief. Just as it would be unbelief to say God is not described by his being a knower. Yet one who says this may fall into such a confusion because the Mutakallimun do not reckon relations among the accidents. So if one asks them, what does accident mean? They say, what exists in a substratum and does not subsist in itself. And if they be asked whether a relation subsists in itself, they would say no. But if one asks them, is a relation an existent or not, they would say that it is. They cannot say that fatherhood is non-existent. For if it were the case that fatherhood did not exist, there would not be one father in the world. Yet if they were told that fatherhood subsists in itself, they would say no, so they are obliged to admit that it exists, but that it does not subsist in itself. Rather, it subsists in a substratum. And they acknowledge that accident expresses what is existent in a substratum. But then they turn around and deny that relation is an accident. The saying that some names are said to be either the thing named or other than the thing named is also wrong. And that can be shown by the name knower. And if this word be excluded, since revelation does not give permission to apply that name to God, great and glorious, one could say declaring what is true and accurate is not contingent on special permission. وأما قولهم أن الاسم ما لا يقال له مسمى ولا يقال هو غيره هو أيضا خطأ لأنه سيفسر بالعالم، وهذا إذا اعتذر فيه بأن الشرع لم يأذن في إطلاق ذلك حتى في ذلك في حق الله تعالى. It would have been most scholars would say that if we resort to Arabic, it's a different discussion, I would say. At least it would be more nuanced. You don't describe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala بالعارف, okay? Because for most scholars, al-ma'rifah min ba'd jahl. The problem in English is that the knower is not restricted to عارف, but it could be the alim. But let's stay with the Arabic for a minute. Al-عارف min ba'd jahala, after it's a state of knowledge, acquired knowledge, after one has been deprived of it, a state of ignorance. And this cannot be applied to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But al-alim, yes. In the sense of alim, Okay, if you would like to علام الغيوب. So when one is using a name, an adjective, an attribute that is permissible to use, and it is used in the absolute sense for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is relative in the case of the human being. Let's remember, وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. And they will not encompass any part of his knowledge except with what he wills subhanahu wa ta'ala in Ayat al-Kursi. Meaning that cumulative knowledge for humanity will ultimately remain partial, and that which is permissible for us to know. Permissible in the sense of you do search, you do study, you do discover, you ponder upon the universe, but ultimately cumulative knowledge for humanity will always be partial. Okay. The saying that some names are said to be neither the thing named nor other than the thing named is also wrong, and that can be shown by the name knower. And if this word be excluded since revelation does not give permission to apply that name to God, great and glorious, one could say declaring what is true and accurate is not contingent on special permission. So perhaps it can be tolerated now, and one may return to consider man as described by knowledge. Would you definitively say that knowledge is not other than man? And that man is an existent while knowledge is not, and that the definition of knowledge is other than the definition of man. For if it were said that knowledge is other than man, yet we say of a single person that he is a knower and a man, then the knower would not be the same as the man nor other than the man, because man is the thing described. But if this were said, we would say that this must also be the case with writer, carpenter, or creator, for the thing described by each of these is a man as well. I would like to make sure that the third adjective is there in the Arabic, because I don't think so. فربما قيل ليس التصريح بالحق والصدق موقوفا على عدد خاص، ربما سمح الآن فيه ورد النظر معه إلى الإنسان إذ وصف بالعلم، فنقول إن العلم ليس غير الإنسان، وقد كان الإنسان موجودا لم يكن العلم حد العلم غير حد الإنسان لا محالة. فإن قال العلم غير الإنسان، ولكن إذا قلنا عن شخص واحد أنه عالم وأنه إنسان لم يكن العالم هو الإنسان ولا هو غير الإنسان، لأن الإنسان هو الموصوف به. قلنا ويلزم في هذا في الكاتب والنجار، فإن الموصوف به أيضا هو الإنسان على أن الحق فيه تفصيل، وأن يقال مفهوم لفظ الإنسان غير مفهوم لفظ العالم. I think this should be enough to go back to the English now and to say the word creator, number 3 here. Yeah. But if this were said, we would say that this must also be the case with writer, carpenter. Now, or creator, does not exist in the Arabic text, and that will be a relief. For the thing described by each of these is a man as well. Again, the third adjective here. Writer is okay, carpenter is okay, creator is not, and does not exist in the Arabic text, as far as I know and as far as I have read. The truth requires precision. It should be said that the meaning of the word man is other than the meaning of the word knower. The truth requires precision. It should be said that the meaning of the word man is other than the meaning of the word knower, since man means rational animal. Rational animal حيوان ناطق عاقل. So the word ناطق is should be included in the text. Rational, speaking animal. And knower means something other than which has knowledge. Moreover, each of the two terms is other than the other, and the meaning of one differs from that of the other. So, in this respect, they differ. And it is not possible to say that they are the same. Yet, in another respect, that is sharing the same substratum, they are the same, and it is not possible to say that one differs from the other. The latter situation obtains when one considers the single essence, which is described by being man and by knowing. What is named by man is what is described by being a knower, as the thing named by snow was the thing described by being cold and white. By this kind of consideration and interpretation, the name is the same as the named, while on the first interpretation it is different. It would contradict reason if, on a single interpretation, they were neither the same nor different. Opposites. The principle of non-contradiction. Just as it would be a contradiction were they the same and different. For other than and same as are opposed to each other, as are negation and affirmation. There is no middle term between them. Whoever understands this knows that if the attributes of power and knowledge are asserted of God, great and glorious, as something added to the essence, then something other than the essence has been asserted, and difference in meaning as well, even though this is not stated in words lest it violate what is laid down in divine instruction. How could it be otherwise? Even if mentioning the definition of knowledge, including in it the knowledge of God, great and glorious, it still would not include either his power or his essence. For must not what remains extrinsic to the definition be other than what is included in it? Furthermore, would it not be possible for the one defining knowledge, if power is not included in its definition, to excuse himself and say, what is the harm of excluding power from the definition, since the origination of knowledge and of power is other than knowledge itself, and I do not have to include it in the definition of knowledge. Likewise, the essence which knows is other than knowledge, and I do not have to include it in the definition of knowledge, and moreover rejects the saying the thing included in the definition is other than what is intrinsic to it, and changes the application of the phrase other than here. Is one of those who fail to understand the meaning of the term other than. In my opinion, however, still this is the Imam Ghazali speaking, rahimahullah. In my opinion, however, it is not that he does not understand, for the meaning of the phrase other than is clear, but he might be saying with his tongue what reason finds offensive and what his insight denies. The aim of demonstrative argument is not to lay hold of speech, but minds, so that the truth of the matter is inwardly recognized, whether it be expressed in speech or not. It might be said, and though it's the aim of demonstrative argument is not to lay hold of speech. The Arabic is اقتناص الألسنة. Of course, you can use speech, but the tongue here is both the language and also the tongue itself. But of course, you would like to win the heart, even if the tongue does not admit it, really. If it's not expressed. It might be said that what compelled those who say that the name is the same as the thing named to say just that was a certain wariness, lest they say the name is a word which indicates by convention. For that would make it necessary for them to say that God, great and glorious, had no name in eternity, since there were no words or speakers, since words are created. We say, however, that this is a slight difficulty, easy to overcome, since it can be said the meanings of names were affirmed eternally, but names were not, because the names are Arabic or Persian and are all created. Arabic, Persian, Latin, Spanish. And this is the case regarding every word which refers to the meaning of the divine essence or an attribute of that essence, like the Holy One, Al-Quddus, which has the attribute of holiness in eternity, or like the Omniscient One, Al-Alim, which has been knowing from eternity. Here we are right now. We have used the word God so many times, and the next paragraph it is mentioned several times. And the meaning is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Persian, Khuda, okay. And the meaning is the same, unless one is using the word to refer to something else, which is possible. In a non-monotheistic use of the word God. And it's not because it's in English, of course. We have already shown that things have 3 degrees of existence. The first is in individuals. I mean, it's not only, I mean, the word God, I mean, in other languages as well. We might use the same word, like the word Dio in Italian. I would assume that most Italians are Catholics, practicing or not, believing or not, but that's really one can, it's practically the same in the Romantic languages. But what they mean by that, if you ask them, that will be an interesting story. In Hebrew, they use the plural Elohim so it is gods. Linguistically, it is gods to refer to God. And because the Jews believe that they should not use the word as is, so they change one letter. Rather than Elohim, it becomes Elokim. They will substitute the H with K, the Ha with Kaf, Elokim. Or when they write, they might, in English, they might use the word God and they will omit the O. They will use a hyphen instead of the O. And they believe that this is really what they should do. Though the word in the singular, Eloh, does exist in Hebrew. So we have already shown that the things have 3 degrees of existence. The first is in individuals, and this existence is qualified by eternity with regard to whatever applies to the essence and the attributes of God, great and glorious. The second degree is in minds. And this is created since minds are created. While the third is in speech and comprises names, this degree is also created in the creation of speech. Indeed, we intend the knowledges by the thing established in minds, and when related to the essence of God, great and glorious, these are eternal because God, great and glorious, is existent and knowing in eternity, and knows himself to be existent and knowing, and his existence was affirmed in himself and also in his knowledge, and the names which he will inspire in his servants and which he creates in their minds and their speech were also known by him. From this interpretation, it becomes possible to say there are names in eternity. I think now it's Imam Ghazali. Well, we're still in the introduction, but now Imam Ghazali is applying what he has already said in the previous pages. There's some application, I would say. It should be easier to understand, inshallah. Suffice it for this session, inshallah, and we'll continue tomorrow with the Azza wa Jalla. Until then, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.